All right, and here we are, the morning after the Derby. You can see the trophy there. We had a really good run. It was a solid car. As the car kept coming together, and I like to make a couple as the things are coming together. Add that to my kind of build video. But we were coming in hot with this car, referring to I was out of time because of us demolishing and then getting everything ready for the contractors to come in. I had to do all that, and then we had 3 baseball games in 4 days for the kids after work. We had 2 birthday celebrations for our son that just had a birthday. So across the five or 6 days I built this car, it was late night. That was really the only time I was able to get to the car, and we came in hot. I literally, the entire night before, I stayed up all night to finish everything, and also wanted to finish the paint job, which came out nice. I was pretty happy with it. But yeah, it was a good run. The car still runs. That is a 3rd place trophy. A little bit of a, just real quick before I look at a couple things I'm walking around, a little bit of a bummer, referring to, I think I was caught out in a technicality, really, referring to, it was a super muddy pit, referring to 20 minutes or 30 minutes maybe, right at the start of when the Derby was supposed to start, it downpoured. So the track was like a monsoon. And as the Derby was going on, and you can see my back end folded up real nice, but the tires kind of got pressed to the body, and I was dragging my back end. It was so muddy that even though my car up front, you can see this guy, especially the last couple hits I took right before I got hit out, the guy that won it, he's a good Derby guy. He's someone I've ran against and know of. He knows what he's doing, and he was slamming my right front. Broke the strut, but the CV shaft was still driving, and it still runs, still moves, but it was so muddy, and I was starting to drag my back end that I just couldn't get enough traction to really move well. But I was still moving, and I was still making contact, and I was getting slammed by the other guys. I just wasn't able to get enough speed or traction to make good contact. So they timed me out literally 5 seconds before the other guy went out in second. The guy that won, he was a good Derby guy, and he had a good car still. I wasn't beating him. Although, as he's slamming my front end, I'm still moving, making contact and running. Who knows, maybe a little bit of luck there. But 5 seconds after they made me break my stick, the other guy went out. And I'm like, come on, guys. So 3rd place, a little bit of a bummer, but, I understand. As long as they consistently, that's how they do it. Hey, it is what it is. But yeah, still runs. Drove it up onto the trailer. I mean, we're scrapping it. It's not worth trying to do. And you see the back end here. Someone made a comment on a video. I didn't get a chance to respond, but about, cars like this, hopefully, do some sort of pre-bending. I wasn't able to get to anything. As I said, we were coming in hot, but a couple former students of mine, they were at the Derby, and they helped me out with the trunk. So right, here in the center is where the trunk, and it had a big spare tire in it, so it was a big kind of lower part. Took the sledge and just around the top of that spare tire area, kind of beat it down a little bit, and then put the jack underneath it and crimped it up or lifted it up to where it was almost flush, that trunk spare tire holder. And this one had a big one because it was a full-size spare, and it folded up perfectly. Had a big hit, me and another guy. Even though it was a muddy track, we kind of had big runs at each other, and we slammed each other, and it's what really pressed my back end, and the trunk kind of was a little bit lifted at the time. That's why it didn't get completely crunched in. But you look at it, I mean, it folded up perfect. Like I said, I was just starting to drag, in particular the right front or right rear, and because it was so muddy, I just wasn't able to get a ton of traction. Even though the car is ripping in and out, I mean, it did great. So look under the hood real quick, and again, I'm just a demolition noob, as the page suggests, but up front, everything worked great. There's my battery. Again, I just use a U-bolt from the hardware store, clamp down the wires to the battery lines from AutoZone. Tape them up super good so nothing, potentially can touch them or come in contact, and that'll end your night. But this car, there's something else I had to do. The night before, whenever I did this, before the Derby, I was like, oh no, my battery cables were only reaching over the dash. They weren't reaching all the way down to the passenger seat floor where my battery was. So I had my wife grab 2 more lines, and you see right there are the U-bolts for those. I crimped those together and then ran to my battery, but that worked fine. Again, the spray foam just around, you know, the wiring and the fuse box and then the transmission there. And you can see over here, I was getting slammed on this side. And again, I lifted that in here pretty much flat as best I could. Used some zip ties just to make it stable, put spray foam around it. And you can see, you know, that spray foam just adds a little bit of kind of protection or padding, if you will, before it gets to that. And you see it moved it some, kind of lifted it, but didn't damage the motor or just put a little crack in the plastic of that, some sort of an electric panel box. I'm not sure what it is. Again, the sensor on the motor and door lube, a half a quart's what I put in, guys. And I'm telling you, I'm a demolition noob, but I am telling you, I swear by that. That was a tip a guy gave me that has a ton of Derby experience. And he's like, I swear by it. Helps the engine run cooler longer. And I totally agree. You do that and put the sensor outside there so it doesn't get too hot and shut your motor down like I had happen one time. And it worked awesome. So super proud of the car. You see a paint design worked great. It looks great. It looks cool too, all damaged up, I think. That's why I wanted to put it toward the back instead of the front. Inside, my weld job, especially as I was getting slammed on the passenger side, this bar eventually broke loose, but it just kind of sank or sat here. The battery, or excuse me, the fuel line that was damaged, I put just a little spray foam around it just to make it a little bit more kind of secure there, and that spray foam works great. And it held great even after all the shots. Again, just a little rubber kind of pad wrapped around the battery lines where it comes into the car there, so the metal as it's getting beat around doesn't kind of start to cut into a line. And my little, you can see, just angle iron, just like a little kind of self-made box as I put it against that, worked great. I just run ratchet straps over each side. I put tape. You can see here, I'll grab terminal. I always put tape over top, so whenever it's on, tape over top of the what's connecting here for your battery line, just so, you know, if my ratchet strap comes loose, or heck, even this time the cage breaks loose, it doesn't come in contact. But you can see how from the top of the dash to here I had to extend my lines. But yeah, battery box worked great. It was fun. It was a good ride, and so, you know, we got third, so that was really cool. And my son went. He had the Power Wheel Derby. You can see this guy back here. We hooked up. If you have a Power Wheel and it's just not, the power battery's not working, this is my tractor battery from the John Deere riding lawnmower I have. I just unhooked the 10 bolt, took it out. These are, my father-in-law had these. They're like a unique clamp. But all you need, take the, right here, I just clip the little plastic kind of thing that goes into the Power Wheel battery off. And I put those on here to make connection, but these things are, he's a lineman, so these are like a bizarre thing. But you just take the battery lines, the white was positive and black's negative, clip them off and just crimp a little, I don't know what it's called, but just a little ring there, put it on there, 10 bolt. Tractor battery works great. I had to cut the plastic a little there, but it worked great. So super happy. He had fun. Got ourselves a trophy. A lot of fun. Good time. So just a little addition to the end of this kind of post-derby run video. You can see I've changed the position of the vehicle from where it was in the driveway. And yeah, we are going to bend this baby back in. I'll make you know, a couple videos if you like to watch these. I'll have it up here after this one. And we're going to get her bent back in. The motor is untouched. The radiator, and you can see the rebar isn't even touched up front. Some damage here, as I mentioned, but still CV shafts grabbing and still steers. So we're going to bend this baby back in, and before we scrap it, we are going to see if we can find somebody in our area that's never run a Derby but it's interested, and I'm going to haul it to and from the Derby for them. You know, I've been fortunate to have a lot of guys in the area, Derby guys, help me, even guys online that I've never met help me, and say, you know what, let's try to grow the sport a little bit here. Get somebody that's interested but doesn't know how to do it maybe, or doesn't have the time to do it, or doesn't have a truck or trailer to do it, and you know, let's get them in a car and see how they do. So yeah, just a little addition here. We'll get a video up of the second attempt, or pre-run I should say, attempt at or pre-run, and see what we got.